Okay, we're going to try that one again. Appreciate there's only a couple in the call at the moment, so all the settings are saying is exactly the same. It's still having the excellent condition, so I'm not sure whether or not this is a buffering issue. I have dropped a message on Discord just to let everybody know that we're back here, but if someone wouldn't mind just checking for me, that would be great. Okay, we're getting a few of you back in. Right, apologies everybody for that one. For those that are watching the mashup of these two videos, you may have seen the first half, but if its buffering's too bad on the actual recording, you might not have done. And all we've really talked about at the moment is the fact that Blackrock actually filed for ETF, a spot Bitcoin ETF last week. And they're trying to get an answer resolved within the next 30 days, but it could take longer than that. Okay. So, I'm getting the error again. I'm not entirely too sure what is happening here. Yeah, still buffering. That's odd. I can't think what it is that's causing it to buffer, to be honest. There's nothing open. It's running in the background. There's nobody else in the house, so it's not that. I just don't know if I've got an issue my end, to be honest. And if I have, that's pretty disappointing because no one wants to just be putting through a continuously buffered stream. Yeah, Bijan, Lee's relocation means the city needs his budget cuts back on the Wi-Fi data. I genuinely live out of the sticks. It's shocking how bad my Wi-Fi is. It's not bad. You know, I get like 60 megabytes download speeds and all that. But bearing in mind, I think I pay for like 400 or something. It's pretty shite. So the stream, I mean, I can try knocking it down just ever so slightly more. So just bear with me while I normally have it on pretty low quality anyway. You can, so I'm surprised that is going to be it. But you're right. So that, why won't you change for me? Right, that's on the ultra low settings. So, okay, I'm just going to persevere until everyone just quits and says it's too bad. If it gets to the point where it is too bad, what I'll do is I will just make a video right now as if I was talking to you guys live, and I'll post it out, and I can only apologize on that. I have absolutely no idea why the connection this week is as bad as it appears to be. Anyway, so what is it that Blackrock have seen? How is their application different? And why does articles such as this think that we may actually get a way to get around the SEC approval? Well, actually, as I mentioned to you, we've had plenty of spot Bitcoin ETF applications made, but they've all been rejected. And one of the biggest comments that the SEC has always gone back, and the words that they've used, is that the previous applications have lacked a surveillance sharing agreement. So that's what this top line is here. We'll go into that a little bit later on. But in the Blackrock's application, they've actually included a surveillance sharing agreement within its proposal. And what they're saying there is that that could help eliminate the risk of market manipulation related to Bitcoin, which is what the concern was with the SEC's previous applications. Whether or not that was a concern of theirs or it was just a nice little throwaway line, I'm not necessarily too sure. So, as I say, if you'd bother to, when you see this, go through their actual application, it actually says here on page 36 of the application, it states that to mitigate against market manipulation, NASDAQ will be brought in to enter into a surveillance sharing agreement with an operator of a spot trading platform for Bitcoin. So the sharing agreement allows for the sharing of information about market trading activities, clearing activities, and customer identification, allowing for little possibility of market manipulation. So that is what a lot of people are getting excited about with this particular application. The SEC is very concerned with market manipulation related to Bitcoin prices, and it's cited this in almost, if not all, previous rejections, what we talked about. Interestingly, There is some contrarians here. So Dave Weisberger, CEO and co-founder of CoinRoots, has countered this comment and saying it's actually superfluous. Because why should it be necessary if Kraken, Coinbase, and all the other exchanges, all of their data feeds are public anyway? So all that information that they're saying that they will be provided through the NASDAQ is actually free to look at in the first place. So the SEC could actually get this data if they could be bothered to firsthand. So was that really the reason why they were rejecting it last time? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. People are getting pretty excited with the inclusion of this surveillance sharing agreement. So maybe that is what it's getting there. And I think the point I'm probably trying to make with a lot of this is, BlackRock are the player in the asset management standard. And, they don't make moves on a whim. They're going to surely feel comfortable or confident that whatever they have applied for is going to get through, obviously, like everybody else. And it doesn't guarantee them success. And I'm not saying that, underhand conversations have been had to get to this position. But it's interesting their timing of when they've done it. And also, after the SEC has quite clearly labeled a lot of tokens, cryptos, altcoins, as securities, providing that FUD that drove the market down from 29,000 down to around about 25. And then we get this news here. Has it actually been the case that for the last month, people who have been selling into BlackRock's bags? And, when we get the next quarterly review, we can get an update and have a look at that, I suppose. But until then, we will just have to wait and see where this all sits. But the other thing is, and a lot of people are worried whether or not having big players like BlackRock are gonna, destabilize the decentralized nature of Bitcoin within itself. And I personally don't believe that it will. Yes, they're going to obviously try and hoover up as much as they can. They're going to try and trade that on behalf of their customers, of course. And yes, that may over time start to control the volatility. But let's be real. For any of us here who actually, realistically believe that we were going to hit $350, $500,000, $1 million per Bitcoin, whatever number you see on crypto Twitter being spouted out, we need players like BlackRock, Fidelity, etc. to be on board. We need the facility of spot Bitcoin ETFs to really be able to drive that price where it's going. And so I don't necessarily see this as an evil. I think it'd be a very positive step. Do I think it is going to be an immediate positive step? No, probably not. Personally, I think this will have an approval of BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF will have a long-term positive effect for Bitcoin. But if it does get approved and they suddenly need to buy it, could we see actually price get driven down low so they can fill their bags a little bit better? Potentially, and the timing there would work. But this is great news. The approval of that, getting this established, talking about Bitcoin halving next year, leading into the next bull cycle. Things are starting to align quite nicely to suggest that we might be going there. I do question, though, the SEC's stance on this. They're going to have to, if they want to approve this, in my opinion, they're going to have to come out with a very well-structured, well-narratived press release to try and explain why they can approve a spot Bitcoin ETF on the likes of Coinbase, whilst they still have so many concerns and haven't addressed regulation properly within that sector. And that kind of feels like those two don't seem to be in sync at the moment, in my opinion. And you would have thought that the SEC would have a clear narrative of what they wanted to go forward with, where that was going to be, before they started then saying to institutions and effectively the public, yep, we are recognizing that the likes of BlackRock can now trade Bitcoin because we believe in it, etc., etc. So that is a concern that has to play on the back of my mind. But it's not just been BlackRock that's been taking up a lot of the news. So Fidelity, again, I think these are the second or third largest, they're the world's third largest asset manager. So they have 4.24 trillion under their management. So there's rumors that they're planning a seismic move. Now, this article hasn't really been updated since yesterday when it came out, but the thought is that they also will be applying for a Bitcoin spot ETF, and that may actually come in this week. Chris, I see your comment there. I was waiting to see if someone put it. I seem to be having some issues here. Basically, I tell you what, if you guys are getting this message, just give me some sort of indication whether or not it's worth me continuing. If it isn't, I will. I'll just record this without trying to stream it, and then I'll get it out. But if it's just too much of a pain because it's skipping too much, because I actually have no idea whether or not the recording is being affected on this as well. So let us know if it's worth me continuing, and if the general consensus is it isn't, then I'll just privately record it. Let's just do a poll. There's a poll that's gone out now as well for you all. I'll try and finish this topic, and then we'll go from there. So, yeah, we're waiting to see what this seismic move is, and as I said, the belief at the moment is that it's going to be a spot Bitcoin ETF application, just what Blackrock did, which again just throws further weight to why would Fidelity, such a monster in the industry, also be lining up their application. I can't think that they've done it and pulled one together in the last 5 days. They must have been able, they must have been sort of working on this for some time. So just to sort of clear up a couple of things within this. So this Fidelity have been mining Bitcoin, as it says in the article, since 2014. They have got a dedicated cryptocurrency business, the Fidelity Digital Asset. I'm going to talk about them in a different news story later on. And they have been offering Fidelity Crypto, which it says here, enabling users to trade Bitcoin and Ethereum alongside traditional stocks, pushing the 401k digital asset investing. So that's where it is. One bit of news that did come out today, which some people may believe that this is the seismic move. I don't necessarily think it is. But, oops, you can't see that. EDX Crypto Exchange has gone live, offering Bitcoin and Ether trading. And this has been backed by Charles Schwab and Fidelity, but it's actually Fidelity Digital Assets, so not Fidelity Investments, Fidelity Digital Assets, that's a separate company, and also Citadel. Now, why don't I think this is particularly the seismic move? Well, mainly because actually this is not an initial or the first announcement of this. So back in September of last year is when it was announced that Charles Schwab, Fidelity Digital Assets, and Citadel were going to be launching this exchange. Today is just the day that the exchange went live. So that to me doesn't feel like it's the seismic news that everyone's talking about, but potentially it is, and just the word seismic was just overplayed. It wasn't just this article that used the word seismic. A lot of people were using that, so it doesn't feel like this is earth-shattering because we already knew it was coming. They'd already announced they were going in to do this. It's just today it's gone live. So if you've seen that as well today and you think that's what Fidelity is, just remember that's not Fidelity Investment, digital asset side, and this has also been previously announced. Where was it that I was? It wasn't an article, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, we kind of we think back to some of the things that I've talked about in previous calls, some of the things that Simon talked about in his calls of sort of ducks getting in a row to sort of get ourselves into a position where the bull market may start to take off. We might see that exit from the bear market. And, let's not kid ourselves. We won't know when we exited the bear market and entered the bull market until we're well into that bull market. But we can start to have a bit of a feel for things that are changing and narratives that's changing. So we've seen some sharp sell-offs. We've seen some rogue actors be taken out back end of last year. We've seen a lot of FUD coming out, particularly around exchanges. There's certainly been a loss of retail interest at the moment. But then what we're now starting to see is that the big boys are starting to line up. So institutional investment companies are lining them up. I've not bothered getting the news articles out there, but Deutsche Bank's another one that has applied for a digital asset license. So that's quite interesting as well. So we've got that. But the big thing is that then they're also applying for ETFs. And, one of the key things that we've talked about is, to get those prices into the stratosphere. And I'm talking about Bitcoin here, but, rising tides and all that. I think we do need an ETF. We do need institutional backing and opportunities for trading. And if we are going to get Blackrock, Fidelity doing those, and I'm sure once one has been approved, others will fall like dominoes. So let's not forget about Cathie Wood's ARK. Let's not forget about the Winklevi and what they're trying to do as well. So definitely a lot of potential there. So that's one of the ducks in a row. For me, it's then about the Bitcoin halving, which is less than a year away. I know Simon's talking about regulations. We're already starting to see that in countries outside of the US. Not really sure how this is playing in the United States at the moment. It seems like they are far from any kind of sort of a roadmap towards regulation there. So that one I'm just going to put on the back burner myself. And as I touched on, it's had a very positive impact on the market, all of this news. If we look at the 7-day column, Bitcoin up 8% in the 7 days. Now you've got to remember, because 7 days ago was a Tuesday, we hadn't had that drop off that led me to drawing up the 12%. But still 7%, very impressive to see where we are. Altcoin's still struggling against BTC. We're going to talk about Bitcoin dominance, but spoiler alert, we've already crossed over the 50% threshold for Bitcoin dominance. Whether or not we stay up there, we will have a look at and see if it's there. But some other players are starting to move quite nicely with that as well. So it's nice to see a bit of green on the 7-day chart for once. Okay, let's see if I can pick out any other comment in here that isn't about... Oh no, I won't be able to because I lost all the previous comments and just have to wait and see. Right, well, it's been a while. I feel like it's been a couple of weeks since I've used his name, but Sam Bankman-Fried, it continues. So, as you're aware, back end of last year, Sam Bankman-Fried was arrested and also charged with 8 felonies that he had committed in the whole FTX Alameda Research scandal. But then in January, February and March, 5 additional ones were added, taking it to a total of 13. I'll do the maths for you there. And actually, those additional 5 it looks like have caused a bit of a problem. So what has happened? I think I put these articles in the wrong order, but I'll try and backtrack. So I have got them in the wrong order, I'm sure of it. Yeah, there we go. This is the one I wanted first. So what effectively is going to happen is Sam Bankman-Fried has been appealing against quite a lot of his charges. So of the 13, I think he's appealed against 10 of them. But the 5 that were brought at the beginning of this year, there is less, should we say that there is a belief that there's less evidence that they can go through on those. So that is going through a lengthy appeal process within the Bahamas where he was originally arrested. So that creates a bit of a problem for the Department of Justice because they can't actually proceed with their case, in theory, until that appeals process has been completed if they want to go for all 13 charges. So what I initially started to see in sort of the headlines was that 5 of the charges had effectively been dropped and now he'd only be charged with 8, and there was a concern that he wouldn't actually see any jail time as a lot of the remaining charges were pleadable ones that he could just pay fines, etc. But that's not necessarily the case, and the more I've dug into it this week, that isn't where it's gone. So what effectively has happened is that the prosecutors in the US are now going to proceed with just the original 8 charges, but they have applied to the judge and said, we still want those other 5, but we'll do those at a later date once the appeal has been settled in the Bahamas and when we know the trajectory of wherever that's going. So it's not that those 5 have actually been dropped, they've effectively been paused. And I mean, this article goes on to say, because of that, this actually process could take years, but they are still looking for swift justice, and his trial is supposedly due to start in October for the original 8. He'll then, be found guilty or innocent on those, and depending on what happens and serves times or pays fines, it will just then take years. I don't know how long, I'll be honest, to conclude the rest of this, just awaiting what's going to happen for the remaining 5. And it may be that they do then end up dropping the remaining 5. But they made an application to the judge, and it's now going to be 2 trials. So they're going to split the charges, original 8, final 5. That's how they're going with it. And the dates are down here at the moment for when they're scheduled. So Trial 413 was going to start the 2nd of October 2023, but 5 of those are now slated for March 11th, 2024. I'd take that date with a pinch of salt because you've got to wait on the Bahamas system ruling one way or another with that. And I don't know how or when that's going to be. So, yep, the saga continues. It'll be interesting to see how that one goes forward. Right. How are we doing on the stream, guys? I think you're probably a good 30-40 seconds behind me at the moment. But how is everything looking? Is it still worth me continuing, moving on to something else or not? I'm closing stuff down as we go. I can't believe the amount of tabs I have open has got anything to do with the connection, but any port in a storm, we will just close what we can. Don't need that one. Not sure if you guys have caught up yet, but I will continue. So for those of you that have been on Discord this week, you'll see that I dropped a video about a podcast that I did with a gentleman that's also in the group and his business partner called the Moonshot DAO. And whilst I'm not necessarily here to plug what they do, their predominant interest is within NFTs, and they have effectively set up a group of interested parties that pulled their money together and they buy NFTs, etc. So I went down, I did that, spoke about Bitcoin, spoke about my crypto journey, but I also talked about NFTs. Generally it's worth a watch. Of course, I'm going to say that because it's there, but there's just an interesting overview of where it is. But one of the questions that they asked was, where did I see NFTs really working for me, and how could I see that? And I talked about the gaming sector. I can see a real utility for NFTs within the gaming sector, and I can also see a genuine marketplace for every man, every woman, whatever term I have to use these days, but I didn't mean it like that. In the sense that, you're not talking about a floor price of 100 ETH for a Bored Ape or whatever, generally something. But quality has gone up massive in the last minute or so. Maybe it was one of the tabs I had open. I stand corrected. And one of the things that I really believe is that games such as Counter-Strike, Fortnite, Call of Duty, these first-person shooter games, battle royale format in which you have an individual character and you go out and fight, they have an opportunity to adapt into the NFT market. And actually, there was an announcement back end of last week which really caught my eye about that. And it's using two of the biggest companies in the world, actually. It was from Nike and Epic Games. Epic Games make Fortnite. Fortnite is arguably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, online battle royale games you can play. So, what is this article and how does it affect what I'm talking about? So, Nike teases an upcoming Airphoria NFT sneaker hunt on Fortnite. So last week on the 16th of June, Nike pushed out a video on their Twitter teasing this Airphoria, and I think I've got it somewhere. Oops, if I can find it. This one here. So that was it. Not necessarily too much given away, but two things from that. One, the date today. So actually, I've been able to expand on this because I was keeping my eye out for it today. But the logo that you see there, that's not a Nike logo. That's a dot Nike, isn't it? Right, and that's dot swoosh. Now, what's dot swoosh? I hear you ask. Well, that is Nike's Web3 platform that they set up and dot swoosh is the name that they chose for it. And at the time I started researching into this, that video was all we had to go on, what it is, what we do. But speculation was running around that actually this could be the fact that Nike have created, most likely sneakers, trainers for us Brits, which you can run around Fortnite, and if you find them, you can have them. There'll be NFTs, so they'll be one of a kind, and you can just add them to your avatar, your character, whatever, and then you've got those running around. And that seemed like huge. We've got Nike, arguably the biggest sports franchise in the world, and Fortnite, arguably the biggest battle royale. They've come together. Now Fortnite does this a lot in terms of they make collaborations with the likes of Marvel, Transformers, all sorts of stuff, and they create characters that you can buy from the store that then you can use to run around the game. And that's their business model, effectively. The game itself is actually free. They make their money from in-game purchases. So you can kind of now suddenly see where I'm getting to with this whole a gaming NFT within a community which is used to a online marketplace to buy stuff to improve, not necessarily their ability to play the game, but just the perceived image that their avatar presents. And at the moment, you could run around as Optimus Prime, and everyone can do that because everyone can buy the same one. But if you suddenly had NFTs and they were unique and had some rareness about it, then suddenly there's a marketplace potentially to be had. And lo and behold, it's actually been launched. And what it is Euphoria is an actual map. A map design within Fortnite, so you can load into this map, you can run around the area, and there are things to find, but everyone that plays for just a small amount of time will guarantee get a certain pair of NFTs. I'm sure they won't be particularly rare, but being thrown out. Mine died too. Refresh. Are you guys out? Are you? You're back in? This is lagging so badly, I've got a feeling I won't know for about 2 minutes. So let's just go into the article a little bit whilst you guys try and catch up. So the footwear and apparel giant Nike has hinted they will drop a collection of sneaker non-fungible tokens in Epic Games' widely popular online game. The move would mark a potentially massive opportunity for Web3 adoption by traditional games. And this is the point I'm trying to make. So traditional gamers, they are very used to having these enclosed marketplaces in which they're happy to spend their hard-earned money to buy. And we're not talking about particularly expensive stuff. I mean, £8 just for a skin, some people might seem is quite expensive. But the fact that they're used to doing that, I think there is definitely an opportunity here to create a marketplace for elements that are still more unique than that. And so this map has been launched now. You can go and play on it. I don't play Fortnite, so this is where I'm kind of out of my depth, and I wasn't going to download Fortnite just to try and find this because I'd be really out of my depth. But the fact that it's there and you can do it, the only thing that is now missing is the actual marketplace for you to sell those. Well, I suppose, and also that next step forward. But Dot Swoosh isn't just disappearing. This has been deliberately it's been launched deliberately to create not just for games like this, but a whole area. And yes, they're starting off with trainers, but the idea is that they'll move into clothing, digital clothing, etc. And so you can see the date of when they launched was sort of November 2022, so kind of 6-7 months ago. It's been launched on the Polygon network, which is great because we're not going to be stuck with ETHs if anyone goes down that route. They've been steadily sort of developing and bringing this one along, which is good to see. So this is the actual press release that was launched today about the Euphoria in Fortnite Ultimate Sneaker Hunt. There's a floating city area. There you go. Has thwarted maxed out Max's attempts to add missing Air Max Grails. No idea what any of this means. Experience Euphoria in Fortnite and recover the lost Air Max Grails. There you go. just for your help you'll receive. So even if you just log on, you get Air Max 186 back bling, which I don't know what those look like. Maybe they're those ones. But there is opportunity to find some others as well, it seems. But yeah, I think this is a really positive step forward. I think in terms of a marketplace to get there, Fortnite averages, I actually brought this number up. So here you go. Online in the last hour is just under 1 million, but active players over the last 30 days is just under 250 million people play this game over the last 30 days. And look at that, Twitch is a streaming platform, for those of you who aren't aware. There's been over 33.5 million hours watched over the last 30 days. So this is not a small game by any shape or form. And the fact that Nike have teamed up with that, I think does bring some credibility within it. It's just now be interesting to see how the actual players themselves, how well is this map played, and how sought after are them, and are they actually good? Do they look great? Is that something that people are going to be interested in? Because I have a feeling that this isn't a luxurious art piece of artwork or that anyone's particularly looking for. This is something that that wants to be cool, that can have some value to it, that can then be sold. But this isn't the first time that this has been done. I talked about this in the podcast, but there's a game called Counter-Strike, and they have these boxes that you can open, and weapons will come out of them, and gloves, etc. And there's some very unique skins within there. And at the time I held that interview, one of the weapon skins sold for nearly $500,000. So there's definitely a marketplace for some of these rare ones, and you can run around in the game with that if you so choose to. So it's clear that there is a marketplace for that, which is great to see. Epic Games, they are the people who created Fortnite, the developers for it. They've also announced that over the next, it's in this article somewhere, I've skipped past it. So they're releasing 2 new games, blockchain games, into their store. They've already got 5, but it's going to be 20 by the middle of 2024. So 20 blockchain games. So they're sort of really throwing some weight behind this to try and bring that crypto side, blockchain side, to traditional online gamers, if you will. So I think positive. Now that doesn't mean that the games are going to be any good. Doesn't mean there's going to be a big user base within that. Of course not. That's the same with every game that's released. But the fact that it's given the opportunity to do that, just create that awareness with a large target market, I think it's a positive step. And then to take that a step forward, Nike have also signed a deal with EA Sports. So EA Sports, again, one of the biggest producers of games, and titles within the gaming community, the likes of Madden and FIFA, the F1, there's boxing ones, there's loads of them. I think I got a list of them here. Yeah, Madden, baseball, you got the F1 here, FIFA, hockey, golf. Plenty of big names, big sports. Well, Nike Virtual, Nike Swoosh have partnered up with EA Sports again. So it looks like, although nothing has been released yet, they've already making the collaborations, they've already making the connections to be able to bring some of these NFTs to. And as I said, the thing that's missing at the moment would then be the marketplace. But I suppose you've got to provide something to sell in the first place. So it makes sense that you release these NFTs, make them desirable, make them sought after, and then once there's enough hype around it, then you open up a marketplace and people can start selling it. So yeah, I think a great step forward. As I said in that interview I did, for me, I think that's the next logical step for NFTs becoming mainstream, and for just being part of our everyday life and not everyone just rolling their eyes when they hear the words NFTs. And if you can crack the gaming industry, if you can crack the gambling industry, then I think you're definitely going to be onto a winner there. Right, so let's have a look. Moonshot and DAO, 2 of my least favorite words. Yeah, difficult. DAO, I think whenever we think of DAO, we think of rebasing DAOs, don't we? But I think this one is just more of a case of it's a community in which everything in there is open up to the vote. Quality has gone massively up. Let's hope it stay that way. Alex Becker said in gaming there were 100x's to be made next bull run. I think there are. I saw a video he did over the weekend. it's like a 50-minute video, and he went through a lot of different gaming, whether that be actual developers of games, whether it be streaming platforms for the games to come on, etc., etc. I think there's some opportunity there. I have a few gaming tokens and NFTs from the last bull run that I never really bothered selling. It's not saying I'm going to scattergun approach, I'll be honest. But I do think the sector as a whole will do well. And I think if it does start to do well, the likelihood is if I'm going to FOMO into anything, I'll probably end up FOMOing back into that. Let's just hope we get my timing right. Just sold my Pudgy Penguin Air Jordans for 57 ETH. Did you really? Well, if you did, congratulations. People that died and then they've got back in. Surely the biggest gaming addict nerds will be absorbed by the highest value NFTs as they will play the game the most. Potentially. But if there's a genuine marketplace for it, I think people could just see it as an opportunity to trade and then just, I don't want to say take advantage, but what will ultimately happen, I suppose, is if I were to do it anyway, let's just say it was a skin of some sort, it would have, different attributes within it and then different levels of rarity within each of those attributes. You may not want to run with that. And you think, I'm happy running as Optimus Prime or as Iron Man or whatever, but I happen to get this as a marketplace. I'm going to go on and sell it and make a bit of money. I mean, it's just how you get them. Do you get them from treasure hunts, or do you have to buy them in the first place and mint them or whatever? I don't necessarily know. So that that will be, I suppose, where the hurdles come. If it is a case of you've got to be into crypto in the first place to get them, then that might sort of be a barrier to entry. But if it's just a case of you can just pay hard-earned cash and open up a crate and it turns into whatever it is, and there's a bit of RNG, a bit of luck about what you get, then yeah, or you find them in the game, or I know you kill someone in the game and you were able to take their skin off them or whatever. I don't know. I'll leave that down to the developers to decide. Right, I think I've caught up with everybody's questions, and again, apologies about the streaming. Right, that's kind of it. I'm going to shut all these tabs down, and let's just get in some charting. Let's see where we get to after that. So Bitcoin, as I say, today has been on a bit of a rip. I like to start sort of doing my research into what I'm going to talk about during the day, right at the beginning of the day. And I'll be honest with you, by 4 o'clock, I'm usually done. And I kind of was done. And, it was just meandering around, 27,000. And then suddenly, in the last few hours, it's shot up again, which I haven't checked to see if there's been a particular news announcement about that. But yeah, it has been moving. But let's go on to the daily. I want to have a look at some good old TA, see where we are, see what's happening. We'll do all sorts of different things, more traditional TA, market maker TA, etc. We'll do it on different time frames, as we said. But we'll start with the daily, big picture first. We'll start with the more traditional stuff. So last week, you'll remember, I kind of drew some sort of, I don't know what it was. It was like a falling channeled, it's like pennant type thing. I think I must have drawn it on the 3-day because everything looked a little bit neater than that. But it was kind of roundabout like that. And as I said, up until a few hours ago, it was kind of looking like a fairly safe bet as to where we were going, top of that channel, a potential opportunity for a short, see a correction come back down. But it hasn't, and it's bust all the way through. And, why has that happened? What possibly could have led to that? So let's just remove these because that doesn't necessarily matter now. But what we did talk about last week, if you remember, was that 25,000 level. We drew sort of roundabout here. Can't remember. We went all the way back to the over here, if you remember. We kind of actually linked it up to that wick up there as well. And I think we pulled this up a little bit. Anyway, it was something a little bit like that. We said this is the area of interest, psychological level, previous levels of resistance and support, and it'd be an ideal level for it to turn around should it continue to drop. Actually, we had a compression. Can't remember what the compression was now. It was actually, I remember it now. I do remember it. It was kind of like this. And we were saying that the apex was getting in and around that 25 level. So we were thinking that was a good level to identify for it. And, it's hit that level and it's bounced back off. But is there anything else in that level that could have given us any clues as to where that was going? Well, I've done this earlier. But we put a Fibonacci level on from the low from March. Just tidy it up so you can see where it is. To the high where we were here. And I mean, this 0.5 bounced perfectly on the 248, the bottom of our box there, before reacting within it. And what's interesting is where it's stood right now. So we're right at the level, 27,950 is the 0.78. Let's just call it 28,000 for cash. And that's an interesting level. You don't need me to draw this to see it's been previous resistance, support, resistance, support, and resistance. A lot of price activity there. And we're hitting into that. And so, there's potential there that this could be an area in which, we get to, and then we turn it back around. So what does that mean? What were we doing? Well, I had some buy orders set for down here. Not just, I did buy some Bitcoin. I think I announced that I did. But I also bought some altcoins as well. Altcoins, that's a tough buy, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. It's a tough thing to go under and do because it's not always the best thing, especially with Bitcoin dominance going into the chart. But I'm spreading myself, and I'm happy with how I'm doing that. Do I look like I really want to buy around here? I'll be honest, no. There's no point me necessarily buying at this level. I might as well wait and see what it does. We're at a Fibonacci retracement level in which it's acted on before. We're at a 28,000 level, which again has been previous support and resistance from that. And spoiler alert, this is a bit old. I'll refresh this. Let me run it again. A bit higher than that now. Okay, I regret doing this now. Oh, there we go, we're back. But spoiler alert, that 28,100, when I was lining up this talk earlier on today, was just looking like an absolute magnet in terms of $20 billion at that level. And what's it gonna do? It's taking it out beautifully and then turn around. So yeah, that was kind of where I was looking. And that's what I thought I'd be able to talk to you about today is 28,000. That was going to be my God level, make me look like some sort of trading genius, as that's the area that I'll be looking to identify. But as with these things, events, acted ahead of time, and we already got to that level. But that was the logic that I was running. So I'm just going to wait, sit on my hands. I've already bought a little bit lower. I'm happy with that entry. There's no point you buying here. I might as well wait to see if it clears 28.2 and starts to take on 29,000. That seems to make sense. Now, we'll go into altcoins later, but Bitcoin is, most altcoins are running exactly the same as other altcoins. Bitcoin is running different. And again, we'll talk about dominance and why that necessarily is. But there seems to be a lot more faith in Bitcoin at the moment, and the moves seem to be far greater to the upside, and the downside seem to be less than what altcoins are doing. No, I was joking. There's no such thing as a putty pension. Oh, so Bijan, no, I was thinking you'd made 57 ETH. I was going to come out and see you. Anyway, so let's have a look at the other things we've done. Support and resistance. We've done Fibonacci. We've done previous price history. There's definitely some levels to identify there. We are at the levels. The level we talked about last week, we hit. We're at the level now which we're identifying. And should we break that? I mean, yes, there is a level at 29.5, but I'm looking for a retest at 30,050. Sorry, 30,500. That'd be where I was looking for potential next turnaround. But if we were to get to that, we've got other things to factor in. And so let's have a look at that. So most of you are aware of these charts by now. So this is what I use for when I'm having a look at what good old market makers doing. And I've drawn this one so many times now that, I go blind with it, but let's just do it again. Long-term plays on the daily, they act out over months. Okay, so we're going all the way back to November. We've got the W into the first rise, consolidation, second rise, consolidation. Is this, question mark, the start of rise 3? Well, We have broken back above the 50 EMA on the daily. So we've broken with a green vector candle. Candle's not closed at the moment. So let me just, I need to move up, but that would draw a line. No beers for me this time. And we're right at the level of where this is. So it can still climb, in theory, all the way up to sort of 30,000 and you know, we turn around there and still be considered part of that consolidation phase. But we're looking good at the moment. And of the obstacles we needed to take out, 50 EMA was number one. Take out this previous higher in that'd be number two. And then we just got to try and take out these ones on the way. And we could potentially then be looking at rise 3. And these rises could be quite big. And I would realistically be looking at that level and that level. You know, I don't think 33 to 34,000, 37 to 38,000 are impossible to get to if this is indeed the next rise. You know, once we start breaking 30,000 and closing above it, momentum is going to come back in. We'll have a look at fear and greed a little bit later on and see where that is. But for me, that seems like a no-brainer in where they're potentially going to climb. So, yep, that's something I'm definitely looking at there. On the dailies, I've talked about this for a while. We're in consolidation after rise 2. We're just waiting for rise 3. And obviously, what do we get after rise 3? Well, the theory suggests we're going to get an M formation and a correction. So if we do get up to these levels, whichever one we get to, we're then going to start to see we should see 3 drops down. May not go lower, you know, don't think that we're going to be going, you know, below 15,000, but we may start to see 3 drops down to find some support before moving back up. And again, even on these really rough drawings I'm talking about, this arrow's in October, okay? October is only 6 months away from the halvening. So, and that could only be, you know, the first part of drop 1. So daily ones act out over months. So just bear that one in mind. Right, so let's clear all of that. Oops, there we go. Oh, where's do I delete? There we go. Right, and let's have a look at it on some lower time frames, shall we? And let's go on to the hourly. Could have gone lower, but I think the 4 hour kind of tells the same picture. Oh, there's a lot on here. I might hide some stuff just initially. We'll just keep the one. Don't need market sessions. Don't need that for now. We'll just keep these on for now. We'll bring, you know, where the vector candles are and everything else a little bit later on. So let's try and take this one back and let's see if we can see an accurate picture of where we've got to. It's all well and good. So back in May, this kind of looks like a topping pattern for me. You know, there's the M. See that there? That's the M. Let me just draw that again. So if that's the M, potentially, now this is, I'd say, drop 1 on the hourly. Someone might correct me there and say no, that's drop 1 and that's the correction. Let's have a look. Let's draw them both then. So if that was drop 1, drop 2 with the correction, and then what, a big drop 3? No, I'm going to go back to what I've originally thought, I think. Drop 1, correction, then a drop 2. I don't like that one. I'm going to stick with my first one. I thought we will. It says that 1, 2. If you look, this one here comes up. We've taken off the vector candles. We don't know if it turned around there, but didn't actually clear this previous high. So much like what we were just talking about, a hypothetical situation, if Bitcoin got to 30,000 on the daily, it wouldn't actually have taken that out. So, I mean, it's a steep correction. That's the only thing. Kind of does look like a W there. You know what? Maybe I'm looking at this all wrong. Sorry there. Maybe that is a W. And then we go up. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. That looks better. Into the W here. And then maybe 1, 2, correction, 3. Right. Now I've got it right in my head. I'll draw that again and then put some markings on. So let's have a look at that again. Just can't help myself sometimes, can I? So apologies if they're a bit small. I'm trying to make the screen as big as I can for you so you can see it all. But what we're effectively looking at, we got the W. Okay, so that's the W down there. And then this one would be rise 1 there. We then got drop back down. That's the sort of consolidation period. Rise 2. Oh, sorry. What am I talking about? I've got really confused myself. I'm talking about a W, then I'm talking about drops. That should be an M, shouldn't it? I was just talking out of my bum. That's the consolidation. Up and then. Okay, I'm not really seeing it there. I'll be honest. I thought I'd drawn it perfect with that, but that's because I was thinking that was an M, and obviously it wasn't an M, it was a W. That's not really played out. As a matter of fact, if anything, we thought this was going to be a W, a consolidation, but then it's failed and it's come back down. But there have been 3 distinct drops here, which makes me think, is this the wrong way round? And maybe on a really low time frame that actually works. Yeah, have to wait and see. See, I don't plan everything ahead of time. If I had, I would have known all of this. But I must admit, I did see 3 drops and think that there was an M from it, and there's obviously not. So now it calls into question whether or not we're actually in some sort of pattern here. I think the point I'm trying to make, and I'm very badly now, was that I was looking at some sort of W here, the rise up. Oops, gone too far that time. The rise up, consolidate, rise up. And maybe we're at rise 3, and as we said, rise 3 can lead to, ooh, that's a V, an M formation. And maybe we might start to see a pullback on the hourly, which is still fine, still doesn't eradicate our thought process on the daily, because actually we were at, significant levels, whether that be from a fib level, whether that be from previous price action level, whether that be from there. So yeah, I'm sort of looking at that. Tim said your W on the 14th is good. W on the 14th. This one down at the bottom. Okay, 14th into the 15th. Right. Okay. Well, at least someone agrees or corrects me. So thank you, Tim. But yeah, we've got and again we put these we've these strong move up. If you look at this now that we got the vectors turned back on, we've had 3 vector candles, or 4. Okay, we've had the slowing down. The candle coming out. We've got all of these zones to come back in. Remember, green is over 200% of market of normal volume. So there's going to be a lot of people here who have gone long. There's going to be some trap shorts in this move, which is just screaming for a pullback. Maybe not down all the way. Even 50% down to here is 20. Wow, yeah. Is 27,500. We get a 50% of this second candle. We're getting close to 27,000 again. Maybe then, everyone goes short, ride back up, follow the M and come back down. We don't know. We just got to wait and see. But for me, it feels like this move, as strong as the push has been, potentially we could be seeing the start of a reversal from that. And if nothing else, certainly a consolidation from that. 4 very strong hours of movement climbing up, and as I said, moved nearly $1,500 over those 4 hours. So something to definitely look at there. We're just going to high block, and I want to just take it down a notch. Let's take it down to the 7-day. I just want to see over the last. Actually, I'm going to take it down again because of those 4 hours. I just want to see if people have been placing some longs within that. I mean, we're starting to see a little bit building up here. What's that? Nearly 900 mil. And again, nearly $1 billion down there. So there's some that's starting to build. But yeah, have to wait and see. I mean, each one of these candles, I think, is 5 minutes. So anyway, okay. So I think, for me with Bitcoin, on the lower time frames, looks like we might be exhausting ourselves. On the higher time frames, potentially might have seen over the last few days a local bottom within that. And if you go onto the even higher time frames, I'm going to go onto a clean chart actually. Let's get rid of that. But if we go on to the higher time frames, nothing to me suggests that at this moment in time, let's caveat it, but at this moment in time, that bottom is in jeopardy, because we've had the bottom here, climbed out, and potentially made, we're just in a run of making higher highs and higher lows, and we might just have found our local low here back at previous resistance before we then start to make that move up. And again, that kind of ties in quite nicely with the three rise theory that we're talking about on the daily. So, I'm not particularly nervous about this level that we've seen down there. I was very happy to be able to pick up some more there, and I'll be honest, with some of my alts, it was a good opportunity to dollar cost average in and bring my entry prices back down to something a little bit more reasonable. Glimmer has been a prime example for me of where I thought I was buying at a good price. I think my average buy at the moment is about 33 cents, but at one stage it was down at like 21. So buying at 25, there could be a good opportunity there to bring that 33 cents down in line. It's got some different tokenomics that are putting me off, so maybe that wasn't the best example. But yeah, so higher time frames, I think the structure at the moment is still looking good. Where do we need to get scared? Let's throw on some potential. Let's throw on a couple of EMAs and have a look at what might worry us. See what it's like on the weekly. Interestingly, on the weekly, I mean, look at that. So I know they're both the same color, which is silly of me. Let's put this one to make that one thick as well. So the white is the 50 and the blue is the 21. So I was just reading the question there, and look, they're both resting on each other at the moment, and prices, this is the weekly chart, has moved down to that and has bounced off it, and has had a good bounce this week. 5 days to go, so let's not get too excited on this week's green candle, but a good start nonetheless. So we break below the 50 and the 21 just because they're on top of each other, and we actually break and close below that, then yeah, we may start to see a reversal here, and then we've still got a bit of leg room, because actually we go all the way down to 21.7 on this pullback down here and still turn around and this still be a higher low forming. So from a weekly point of view, this level we've just hit, vital. I mean, I might as well move it up to the bottom of that now, to the 26,000 where the close was from last week. But we lose that, this is what we're going to be looking to hold our nerve at, because a break of that is a break of market structure in terms of the uptrend has potentially ended there. So that's something we need to definitely consider. Let's look at this total market cap. So let's just have a look. Bit traditional TA on that. Where am I doing it from? Let's have a look from here. Initially, I mean, that's actually worked out pretty decent in terms of previous levels. Been bouncing in between these quite nicely, obviously up to there, back down, played in between the 618 and the 5, touched all the way down to the 236 before reacting. So, total market cap, really close to where we are now. I'd really be looking at sort of 110 1.1 trillion as the next level, and that's been a pretty hefty resistance in the past. So and support, so could well lead to an opportunity for turning it around there. We're only actually talking about 300 billion. I mean, it just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? In terms of the crypto market, that's not necessarily too far of a move that needs to have for the whole market to bring that up. So there's definitely some potential for that to move there. Looking at the Bitcoin dominance, we touched on, this has been on a rip since pretty much since the Binance and Coinbase, SEC lawsuit filings. We've seen some strong movement from this and sort of breakdown of that level. And as I said, we have breached the 50 today. For all intensive purposes, unless we see a major correction, it's likely that we're actually going to close above 50 today as well. That's the first time since May 21. I'm gonna have to put this onto the 3-day so I can actually zoom the chart for you and have a look. You can actually see what I'm looking at. But April 21, last time we potentially closed above. Actually, talking about close, it's gonna be the 22nd of April. So yeah, and we're talking, the first part of the bull cycle, really coming to the end of that time in there before the correction in May. So that's it's a strong climb. It's a strong break that we've made from 48, which is, an area we looked at. And that's why your alts, or certainly my alts, are struggling at the moment. Does that necessarily put me off on buying notes? No, not really. Let's have a look at where this realistically can go. And I think there's some clear levels. It's at an important level at the moment if you go all the way back to 2017, 2018. But if we're looking at some other levels, and I apologize, these boxes might be a bit large, but probably class that as a fairly decent level to be looking at. So anywhere from 52 to 54.5, and then oopsie daisy, I might even have to go on the monthly at this rate. Probably that level there, which is all the way up to 60. Now that doesn't sound like that's far away, but that is. 10% is a big move for Bitcoin to get there. Do I think we'll get up to 72, 73 that we've seen? I will not say no, as in we can't, but do you know what? I was going to say, not saying can't, because we won't, but obviously we can get there. If these ETFs get announced and, Blackrock haven't bought anything and they need to start buying billions of dollars worth of just Bitcoin, they're not bothered about any other assets, then yeah, actually, you know what? Bitcoin could climb up there. And there's a narrative that could certainly take it there. But that, as I say, for me, that doesn't necessarily concern me in terms of my balance in my portfolio. Yes, I am alt heavy, but I'm happy at getting in at the prices that I'm getting in at. As I said, I'm staking what I can, and so I'm constantly bringing my dollar cost average down. It's certainly not in line with some of those assets with the dominance and the crushing that it's getting. But I would rather have something in the game right now, ready for it to turn, than waiting until some of these levels and then missing the reverse and it going the other way. Because as we've said, when altcoins decide to move, that's altcoins moving. It's quick. It is rapid. So it's hard to get that narrative. So for me, my mindset, if you will, is I'd rather have some exposure and have the drawdown initially, keep on adding to it. So like when I say that I'm buying stuff, I might be just buying 1% worth of allocation each time I'm buying stuff, just sort of slowly chipping back into the market. And that just feels a lot more comfortable for me for doing that. So I think the levels to look at, 53 to 54, I think that's, with a strong tailwind for Bitcoin, certainly. Good news for Bitcoin, whatever that may be. I think that drives it up. SEC continuing to hammer altcoins, which of course has helped to drive these prices upwards. And then the ETF news has just added to that. Let's have a look. Missed some questions here. Do I still have my racehorse NFT? I do, yes, D-Race. Sorry, that's going back to the gaming side of things. So I still do have my D-Race NFT horse, Generation Zero. Not raced it in a year, probably. Still going. They're still building. I think that's a really good sector. It is a game, but it's also introduces gambling side of things. The animations are, I think, valid for what they are. I think the token has utility because you have to have the token to buy into the race. So there's buying pressure as well as selling when you win. So that kind of works. There's breeding, there's renting, there's jockeys, there's all that kind of stuff. So for me, yep, that I do have it. I'm going to keep it. I got an NFT to be part of the jockey club for that as well, which I probably overpaid for that through the hype. So we'll just have to see how that goes. How much do you have in dot percentage wise? That's a good question. So at the moment, I probably have about 15% of dot. By the time I finish, my dot will be what I personally paid for, will be around about 20% of my pot, I think, roughly. Mix gadgets. What does my pot consist of? So generally, this is my pot here. So I label it out here. So I've got Bitcoin. I don't hold any ETH. I'm actually going off ETH, I'll be honest, but that's another story. Got my dot, as we said. Bifrost, got some of that. I've got Metaverse X. I've got Glimmer. I've got Link. I've got Matic. I've got Near. I've got OKB. I sold my Quant, thankfully. I did a nice one there, and I got Rose. So they're all the ones I currently hold. That one's been staked. That one's doing nothing at the moment. It should really do something. It isn't. Glimmer's been staked. Link I can't stake because it's locked up. Matic, Near, or Rose all been staked. OKB is just sat on the OKB exchange. It's the one thing I haven't really got around to moving. In the shitcoin pile, so I want to get a bit of ADA. I'm not really interested in BNB unless it absolutely crashes. Caps or Tamaru, that one is. That was just a short-term play I did. Swissborg, I actually do hold some Swissborg. I don't really see that as anything other than it's my on-ramp and I hold enough that I don't have to pay any fees. Doges for my Doge plays. I'm out of gas at the moment. I have CAS on here under the shitcoins just 'cause it's not part of my portfolio, but people ask me about it all the time. Litecoin, I don't hold any, don't plan to. Pepe, made a good trade with Pepe. I think I've sold it all now, but yeah, did well on that one. RSR, someone asked me to look into, and so I've kept in touch. We did a research token on that. XRP, I'm kind of tempted to buy some XRP, I'll be honest. Feels like there's a lot of talk about the case being settled soon. There's a lot of confidence now with the emails that came out. And I feel like just having a little bag so that if it does settle in their favor, I'll happily, just ride it very quickly and sell it. And if it doesn't, I'll just hold it for a little bit of time and then sell in the next bull market and get out. TAP, I'm all out of TAP at the moment. That was a really positive trade for me back at the beginning of December. I would like to kind of get back into it. But I'm just waiting for it to fall. It's had a 20% rise today, though. Ribbit was another meme coin that I am still in. That was one of those ones where the music stopped and you don't have a chair. Well, I kept on just recycling a $300 worth of what I put into the assets. I think $300 that I then put into Ribbit is now worth $15. So, yeah, can't win them all. So I hope that answers your question in terms of what my pot is. What percentage of your pot are you back into the market at the moment? It's about 50%. So there was a stage where it's about 70%, but I sold stuff that I just didn't want to hold. So things like Quant, because I wasn't staking it, I wanted to sell it. I sold my Doge, I sold my gas. Sold my caps, I've sold my tap. So ones like that I've just sold. I didn't, I sort of picked my time, either when it got back into profit or got back into break even. And prices since then thankfully have fallen. So if I decide to get back in, then so be it. ETH irritates me. I'd perhaps save it for another time, but it's costly, and that's the thing that annoys me the most. I'll be honest. Gas fees just annoy me. but it's got some, in terms of a layer one and stuff it's had built off it, and can't complain. Where am I staking my BNC? You can stake it on Bifrost. I think I did that showed you that in the video I did. I'll double check after this, Adam, and I will drop a message in Discord about that. So having a look at some other tokens whilst we're here. So let's have a look at Ethereum. So Ethereum again has done well. I thought Ethereum was showing a bit of sign of weakness down here, and I thought, here we go, we're going to see a nice little correction. But again, it's found support around about that 1650 level, and again the continuation of just higher lows continues for the year. So can't really complain at the moment. Unlike Bitcoin though, it's got a bit of noise to get through here. So that 1800 to 1950 level, remember this is the 3-day chart, there's a lot of activity in and around there for it to move. And again, if the narrative is just going to be Bitcoin, then potentially ETH may look to suffer there. But if we can get through that, a retest of 21,000 would be great. 2,100 I don't think is particularly too unnerving from there. And then we'd have to see after that. So not planning on grabbing the car with another Ripple bull market. Well, you never know. I'm in the market for a new car. I think like the Taps one I did very well on, but I'll be honest with you, my Ripple play is probably Bifrost, and I don't want to go over it again. I think it is an excellent token for leverage, for people who like to leverage their assets. That was something I won't be doing. Its market cap's like 3 million, but the amount of networks that are already on it and others that are coming, I think when the next bull market comes and all the degens come along and they want to try and maximize their opportunity, then that's the one I would think for me would be to buy my next car. But I'll just have to live off that story otherwise. Can I have a look at InGen and USDT? Well, I'll do that one now for you. Is this the right one, or did you mean ENJ? Let's have a look. So, I mean, actually, bear in mind, I don't even know what InGen is. Let's have a look on CoinMarketCap. Injective. I've never heard of this, I'll be honest. But it's been around since 2020. Binance, KuCoin, a few others. Must have been a Binance launch, but the fact it's on more Binance than anything else. But anyway, I mean, that's shown some real strength this year compared to a lot of other ones. I'm quietly impressed, not even quietly impressed with this in terms of potential. I mean, let's take it onto the daily, shall we? Let's try and at least make some sort of, something down there. We've got potential kind of, these wicks all lining up as well. So we've got plenty of time for this to fall, but we've had a nice strong bounce from that. In terms of the bigger picture, it's continuing to make higher highs and higher lows on this sort of uptrend there, and this is coming back down. If I was not in it, or if I was looking to short it, I'd probably look around about 750-ish, just depending on how many days it takes to get up to this line, just seeing where it was, bit of a short above. If I was looking to rebuy, you're kind of stuck in the middle of this at the moment. It's not the best time, I'll be honest. You've either got to be patient and wait for an up and down, or wait to see if it breaks in and around here. So, yeah, I might take a look. I'm just surprised at how well it's done this year. I've never heard of it. In fact, in terms of, it's actually 66 as well. I'm not sure why. I don't even know what it does. I know nothing about this token. But I might look into that a little bit more. Not that I'm particularly interested. I'm just, its strength has done well. GMX. So I will have a look at this now for you in terms of price. but that's a research token I'm going to cover. So I will do a more of a deep dive on that one. Hopefully next week. I got Talos to do as well, but I think that's going to be quick. I did have a quick look at Talos, and yeah, I think we can do that. So let's have a look at GMX now, quickly. I will get into some of the other alts, but since people are asking for these now, it makes sense too. So I will just start by saying with GMX, you know, from a fundamentals point of view, I have never used this. So I don't, you know, I don't have any particular preference for a DEX over a SEX. I don't really derivatives trade at the moment either. But I suppose from what I'm trying to understand with this, you know, the fees can change, and from what Simon's telegrams have been, they can be quite expensive. And I'm not particularly worried about being on a centralized exchange. I've got nothing to hide at this stage in my life, in which I'm particularly concerned about. And the like, when I was using Bybit, I was fully verified on that. It was absolutely fine. So I got no worry in, you know, part of the risk of having my money on a centralized exchange for a longer period so I can day trade that, whatever. That's just part and parcel of it. And from what I understand, like trying to understand it, slippage, fees, everything else that you have to worry about on GMX just wasn't worth me bothering to learn about it when I felt perfectly comfortable being on the likes of Bybit. So I've never used it. I don't really understand the fundamentals behind it or the mechanics of how it works. But in terms of price, we look at this on the daily, and this doesn't particularly bode well for me. So what I will say is there's something there. We'll do a fib in a second, but you know, we've had previous support there. We've had a bit of support and resistance there and a bit there. The price has come down. It's bounced off it, but you can see, this is daily chart, remember, as well. It has been in a steady downtrend now since April. And there's some sort of topping pattern here. I'm not going to quite call it a head and shoulders, but maybe a triple top of some sort. But there's kind of three heads there. It's lost its support and it's just falling. And at the moment, all we're doing is making lower highs and lower lows. So this one doesn't feel necessarily like it's the right play. What I'd like to see it do to convince me otherwise would be to break this level there. That's $8 away, so you know that could be a bit of a risk. But to climb out of there, we've seen some sort of bottom band, confirmation of previous support, climbs back up, takes out this top here, starts to form a new high. I think that there would give me the confidence. In terms of does that line up with a fib, if I were to draw that to that, I mean, look, perfectly. I promise I'd not looked at GMX beforehand, but if that is a bottom, the 618 is at that level. So, you know, it can come up there, break the 618 and hold above it. Again, it's going to show strength. But 618 is a very powerful level. We could break and fall down from that and it'd still be a lower high. So for me, a spot buy there, I'm not necessarily too interested. I wouldn't be interested anyway because I'm not using GMX. And if I were to get back into it, I wouldn't use GMX. So yeah, so that's with that one. Hope that one helps. Greg, do you feel we skipped a mini alt season, or is it still to come? Since November 22, BTC, ETH, and memes have had multiplying ones, but most alts have stood still in comparison. I think you know, going back to dominance, I think, you know, Bitcoin has just taken over, and so alts have suffered. And unless they've had something about them to drive a narrative, then yeah, they have suffered. And we're going to look at a couple of alts in a minute. I mean, my fan favorite DOT is not looking good right now. You know, I'll be honest with you. ETH obviously had the had the Shanghai update earlier this year, which I suppose was a narrative to help pump it. We've had meme season, like you say, it lasted a week or two, which managed to, you know, to drive some bumps there. But more often than not, altcoins have struggled, and it's just because Bitcoin has been doing so well. You know, it's up almost 100% from its lows from December. There's not many altcoins can suggest that. Most of them are retesting the lows that they had, or at least retesting the lows from this year. So So yeah, that can be a bit tough there. So if we have a look, I'll just bring Dot up. So again, for me, Dot is not looking similar kind of thing for GMX in a particularly good way at the moment. We don't have a discernible uptrend. We have retested the lows that we formed at the back end of last year, although we did bounce from those. So there's something. Maybe we are seeing some form of bottom, but in previous kind of patterns there, it's just ugly. We sort of peaked here, we dropped back down, dead cat bounced up, and then hung around the 5.4 level before falling off. And my worry is that we just end up falling off again. Does this one go far enough back? I'm gonna have to throw it onto the weekly, guys. Yep. And we're not far off. $4 really is kind of the floor for this. I mean, it's on the weekly, so if we roll it down to the bottom of the wicks and say 380, it's kind of the floor. But we're getting very close to no man's territory. Does that necessarily put me off? No, it doesn't. Am I personally excited about DOT? Am I personally excited about the fundamentals? Am I personally excited about the ecosystem and the development and the activity that's going on? Yes, I am. Do I see this as a longer term play? Absolutely. Will I continue to buy it? Yes, I will. They are all my choices to do, which is based not necessarily on TA, but more on fundamentals of what I believe within this one. So, that's just my personal opinion on that. And, it may come back, and when I did buy up here at $6.70 for some of it, that might turn out to be a mistake, but I was buying here at $4.40. So obviously I'm going to buy back here when it got back to $4.40. Been buying at $5.20, and if it goes lower, I'll continue to buy. I've still got room to move in within it. At some stage, I will have spent what I wanted to spend on DOT. Of course I will. But as I said, in the 6 months that I've been staking it, I've got nearly 500 DOT out of that. So, if that gets to 20, if that gets back up to 10, then it's $5,000 I've made just from that. So I'm kind of happy with that position there. But yeah, for me, not looking particularly nice with where that can go. So if we try and think about where some targets could be for this, I mean, let's just assume that we have, that we call in this bit the bottom because that was there as well. So I'm kind of doing it to a wick here. You have to bear with me. Oh, no, I'll do it to the candle. That's what I am. I'm a candle to candle kind of guy. We're now looking at the extensions down. We've got 3.82. Potentially that could be a level down there. And then we got, 618s are ones that I like. So 3.258. And then after that, we're just falling up. These are just random numbers because I've just deselected most because I didn't want them all on my chart. So, but yeah, unless it finds some life within it and starts to climb back up, then unfortunately, I think we can see some further falling on that. And that's just part and parcel of it. If DOT gets back to $20 higher, whether I bought at $4, $5, $6 or $3, I'm not necessarily going to be too bothered. And because I can stake it between now and whatever time that is, I'm happy with that. Do I think DOT is going to die? No. Do I think it will get back to 55? God, I hope so. I mean, Parachain's narrative really pushed that one there, so maybe it doesn't. But can I see it again back to $20? Absolutely. Will $20 make me a decent amount of money? Yes, it will. So I'll live with that. 6x. Obviously, I want more. Let's have a look at some others people might be interested in. BNB. So BNB it's in a precarious position itself. I'm zooming out here. I'll put it on the 3-day and then zoom back in. But you can see the level it's at the moment. I don't need to draw a box. But if we lose, let's just say 210. So we're at 244. If we lose 210, what is there between 210 and $40? There's nothing between that level and that level. That's how aggressive that climb was at the beginning of the bull market. So it feels overvalued, and it has felt overvalued for some time. And it's not why it's particularly the exchange coin that I'm championing this one, because I think there are better ones out there. OKB and OKX as an exchange are the ones that I'm going with. But you can bet your bottom dollar if Binance does drop to, $40, $50, then I'm going to find some money from somewhere to buy it up, because whenever the bull market does come back, people will flock to Binance and it will drive the price up. Whether or not that's right doesn't necessarily matter. This thing got to $670. And to think I bought this originally at $5, sold at 17, you know, all the classic stories of just not holding on to it for long enough. So yeah. Matic, similar kind of story. Very similar in the sense of this one I definitely bought too early. I've bought it at $1 and I've now bought it at 60 cents to bring this down. But I've been saying for months that this was overvalued, and I still bought into it, and then immediately it just fell off. And again, you know, could we see it getting down to 32? That'd hurt me if it did. That's, you know, 3 times the buying power that's gone and lost there. But if it were to lose, heaven forbid it lose 30 cents, there ain't much holding it up from 4 cents, really. So, you know, that could be a tough one for me to swallow if it gets down there. But again, if it did, I'd be buying hard. And we go back to Bitcoin dominance. If Bitcoin dominance is going to get to some of those levels, 60 odd, we talked about, that Ben Cohen talks about, that Bijan talks about, some of these other altcoins are going to bleed, and they're going to bleed hard. And some of these levels that may seem absolutely unbelievable to get to may become a bit of a reality. And that's unfortunately the risk that we have to take. This kind of leads me nicely into a question. Well, I was only asked one question this week. And this is it. It's an interesting one. It's from Paul. I don't know which Paul, but it was asked today. So serious question. Simon had a few short trades open, saying the market looked weak and was pulling back. I woke up this morning to see he had pulled the trades and put 10% of his pot into BTC, GMX and CAS. He commented, I know this is rather contrary to what I've been saying earlier today, but the thing I've learned with trading is that those too scared to flip their opinions on new data charts don't last long in this game, which is a fair enough comment, but can this also be a FOMO type of move Simon is making? I'm only 10% in the market myself and hanging fine, trying not to FOMO in myself yet. So serious question. Should we be going all in or sitting on our hands? Okay, I'll move that out of the way. But that was the question. So yeah, so I woke up myself to those notifications that he had gone back into the market. Going 10% into BTC, you know, never be a bad thing. I don't think at sort of these prices. In terms of GMX, I've already spoken about GMX in terms of where I think it's going. So if I was just to look at that one chart and a lot of other altcoin charts, they individually look weak. So, but now there's a counterbalance, because it's a case of, if this alt is looking weak, but Bitcoin pumps hard, is it just Bitcoin pumping, or is it the crypto market pumping, and then does the rising tide raise all ships, and there's some opportunity for it to climb out there, potentially. GMX for me, yeah, that the levels I put are the levels I would be looking at. So 58, that's what I see in terms of buying there. It's had a good move already. You know, you think it's actually in the last 2-3 weeks moved from 41 to 50, so 25% increase. It's had a good move. Is it time for a pullback? And this is the stuff when you will find your own personal trading style as to what you feel, but have you missed a decent amount of the move? If it's going to be a short-term play, then potentially you have. If you truly believe in GMX, then yeah, you know, and you're going to hold it for 2 years, fine, go for it. If you're following Simon from trade to trade, what we've seen in the past is he doesn't hold spot for that long. And when I say that long, you think, I don't hold spot for that long. I've still held my spot for 6 months. That's not that long. People have held it all the way through the bear market. But you know, Simon doesn't particularly hold his for too long. But if you are wanting to buy something and you like the likes of GMX or CAS and you want to hold it for a long time, you need to get into your own mindset of this is a long-term hold. And you take the CAS as an example. This isn't a dig before anyone thinks that it is, but I'm just trying to get you into your mindset. So although I didn't follow the numbers exactly because I wasn't in it myself, but CAS was bought at, you know, over 2 cents and sold at 1.5 cents and then rebought back at over 2 cents. So we didn't get any extra tokens from it, and the distance between the sell and the buy was relatively quickly. Now, the logic to me in why Symes sold made sense in the ASIC mining. I get that. And that could certainly drive the price down a hell of a lot lower. But if now it's a case of Symes is, because he doesn't really explain within here, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt that the 30% he's bought across the board is a long-term hold, longish hold, next bull run type hold, and we're just building a position. Then yeah, fine. If we go and look at the chart on CAS, I'll bring it onto the daily so it's a bit cleaner. Actually, the weekly. I mean, okay, it's only been 1.5 weeks, but it's pulled back. Is this now just part of a dead cat bounce? You know, is it just gonna climb up and pull off? So what have we got? So it's broken through the 618. I mean, we've still got a bit of time on this weekly. So we might get to 0.24 and then 0.27. You know, could still get up to those before rolling back down. If you have a look at where this fell all the way through, bounce back, it's come back. So it's kind of respected these levels. So I put this on the daily. I'm sure it's going to look a lot better. I'm going to redraw it. I know I use the fibs quite a lot. I just like them for identifying levels. And then if you watch enough of these, and then normally use the fib in conjunction with price action to the left, previous price history, to identify an area in which I will then set buy orders. And for me, that just works. Doesn't work for everyone, I accept, but for me it does. I mean, now we're on the daily. You know, the fall, this has been bouncing right between these two levels. It's right on there. And Simon didn't obviously buy at this price, but right now we're right at the 0.5 previous level of support and resistance. You know, it's an easy place where it may turn back around. Now, it may get caught straight away by the 618 because that's what it's been doing. Building some structure and off it goes. But yeah, I really would like to see it go past 2.5 just to be safe. Some people may not want to. Chris has put lost you talking about CAS. I don't know if I'm back, and apologies if you did, but it'll be on the main recording. I will. It's about an hour and 50 minutes in. It's going to be right at the end of the recording because we're going to be pretty much nearly done. So in terms of FOMO side of things, I'm going to try and give an honest point of view from that. For me, I changed my mindset back in the beginning of the year, and it was the price has fallen enough for me to be comfortable to get back in. And I've not necessarily worried about that since. Yes, there's definitely some altcoins that I could have bought at a lot lower price, but the Bitcoin that I bought sub 20,000 has been a far greater play for me. So, you know, that's worked out. I think I showed on the last one, I buy it on a UK website, so it's in UK amounts, but you know, I think the lowest I got it was about £13,000. So I don't know, what was that at the time, maybe $16,000. So, you know, pretty much rock bottom prices, buying at a decent level and just building it up. And I was having a look, and I'm actually dollar-wise as an overall pot not that far down because Bitcoin has done a lot better for me than the altcoins have, and I don't factor into that what I have staked. So yeah, potentially I was a little bit lucky, but my mindset has changed now into I'm not jumping out. I'm not necessarily looking for side steps or anything else, and I'm not worried about that. I'm just building a portfolio that will last me in the next couple of years. Jumping around from negative one day to positive the next can create your own level of FOMO. Of course it can, or fear, because you've changed your narrative. But at the same time, I suppose you've got to respect that if you feel that there is a change that needs to be made, you know, there's no point waiting to pull the trigger. So if you do feel in your heart that the narrative has changed, pulling the trigger is the right play to do. But what you can't be doing is constantly rechanging that, you know, so have conviction in whatever. So if you want to say that you've suddenly gone bullish and then the price drops 5%, don't suddenly go bearish again, accept that there might be a pullback before it then climbs back through, and just think about it in that sense. In terms of should you just all go in or just sit on your hands for the time being, I mean, not even Simon's going all in. So I've not been going all in. I've been buying into positions. And I think, again, going back to timeframes and my horizon, that's a comfortable thing for me to do. I would suggest waiting to catch a falling knife could be very dangerous for you, because you could cut your hand, obviously, but more importantly, you could miss the bottom. And so I would be looking to find levels you're comfortable with and buy in. So, we'll use the example of Bitcoin for this again. So let's just get Bitcoin up. Sadly, that 25 level was a great level. If we get back to that, I think that's an ideal level. As I mentioned earlier on the call, 28,000 buying Bitcoin this second, I think is the wrong move, because there's a lot of TA out there to suggest that this is an area of potential resistance and a point for turning around. And so why take the risk? Why not just wait a couple of $100 more and get a confirmation? Wait for the closes. And yes, sometimes you wait and moves happen like this and you miss it. And lo and behold, that's trading. You're never going to get everything 100% right. But more often than not, just waiting for your confirmations, waiting for it to clear something that's out your way is the thing to do. So 25K was a good level. If that comes back down, a retest of anywhere between 25 to 25.7, I think is another level that I'd certainly be interested in. And then, as I said earlier, if it breaks 28,100 and closes above it, 29.5, I mean, that's the next level it could turn around at. So if it starts to build a position at 28,100, I'd probably be looking to buy there. And then, depending on what you want to do, if you were just trying to swing trade it, looking at maybe turning it around for a quick profit if it gets to 31,000 again. Yeah, so I don't know, Paul, if that helped or hindered in any way, but hopefully it did. What exchange did I buy my BTC GBP on? CoinPass. So that's the one I use. I set up a business account there. Very easy to set it up. The guy who's the CEO is actually a former RT member. It used to be called Get FIFO. It's in Get Fiat in, Get Fiat out. It's now just called CoinPass. I'm sure I can bring it up. I don't have a referral code or anything like this. I just do it because it's got a business account. It's completely separate and off it goes. I only buy Bitcoin, I'll be honest, but they trade about 20, 30 tokens on there. I've had a couple of issues, I'll be honest, where my order hasn't filled, but I've raised a ticket and it's been resolved within hours and they've honored the price that it was at. So I don't know if it was a UI issue or whatever, but it worked. They're not registered by well, it says here they're compliant and registered with, but they're not regulated by the FCA, but they have worked very closely with them. So Greg's put, with the Fed rate pause last week, should the move up have been anticipated? Well, it's okay. The Fed's paused the rate, so we didn't get to watch that because it was on the Wednesday. But if you'd watched the conference afterwards, it was actually kind of hawkish. Not dovish. It was still fairly negative. So the idea was that I'll tell you what, let's just go to full screen. I don't think we need that on anymore. So what they were saying was there's probably going to be 2 more hikes before the end of the year. Unlikely to have a change of the federal rate reduction, before the end of the year as well. They were still worried about how hot the employment market was and a few other things. So there was certainly no mission accomplished out there. And, it was just a pause to let the data catch up. And whilst the pause was welcome, so I think they had 11 or 13 increases in a row, something crazy like that. They just want to see what's happening. Now, the CPI data is falling. And actually, it's fallen pretty well. You think it was at 9.1, 10 months ago? We're down to 4 now. So, it's clear that they're going to get there, but their projections and their estimates are by the end of the year it will be 3.25, and by the end of next year it's going to be 2.5. So they're still not, by the end of 2024, going to get to the 2% that they're aiming for, or that's what they're forecasting. So it looks like it's going to be a slow process, and of course they need to keep interest rates high, the federal rate high, to ensure that inflation doesn't creep up again, especially now that they have suspended the debt ceiling, and we've already passed 32 trillion now. So we were at 31, we suspended it, and we've already got to 32. So yeah, they can't just now suddenly just take the foot off the pedal and off it goes. And as I said, historically, we've talked about whenever we do see a period, that's when the markets actually crash. So there's still that to play in as well. So unfortunately, although it was a pause, we didn't really get the confirmation that we wanted. Now, still people are going to be pretty happy with where things are going, and people suggest that the employment data is wrong. And the reason it's such a high employment rate is because people have to have about 8 jobs just to live. So, there's plenty of contributing factors. But you look at the UK, we're still in trouble. I think, what are we at, 9% now? Or, 9 point something. We've just gone into single figures. We look at things like food at 18, 19%. There's a long way for us to go. And our impacts have certainly not had the same effect. So interest rates were raised again this month. I can't remember what it is now, but it's pretty expensive if you've got a mortgage, that's for sure. So yeah. Move up being anticipated. I don't know. I mean, I will go back onto the chart because it was interesting in terms of, let's have a look. You have a look at, go on to the 1 hour. What day was it? It was Wednesday, wasn't it? Which would have been, what day was Wednesday the 14th? So this is, announcement candle here. Dumps back down. This is the S&P. And then just recovers it all. So if we drop it onto, say, the 30-minute, look at these candles. That's when the rate came out, dropped. 30 minutes later, pulled back, then dropped again. They just play the volatility, absolutely. Everything then settles down for a day, and then we see the proper move up. That's why I don't like to trade these days. They're just out to get you, because they just know everybody is waiting with their Bybit account or whatever, Robinhood account, thinking that they know what the market's going to do just because some old man has told you what the rate is. So yeah, they just manipulate it. It's as clear as day. You can go on the 5-minute chart and just see how crazy it is on that, if I can find the right day. 15. Yeah, this is the 5-minute chart for it. Hell of a moment. So yeah, I think we'll have to wait and see if they pause the next one and they pause the one after that, and we still start to see interest rates, CPI data coming down. I think that's when people can start to get initially excited. But history has shown us that the word pivot normally means we crash. So we shall see. Right. I appreciate there was a bit of an interruption, but we're kind of getting close on the 2-hour mark now. Anyone else got any burning questions?